I've noticed that you said that if the Democrats win, they'll do it again. Can you clarify what that means?
We saw a spending surge during the Biden administration, a blowout spending. The spending was responsible for the inflation surge. We saw mass unfettered immigration, 10, 15, 20 million illegal aliens coming into the country and depressing wages, taking low-end housing.
There's some things that the federal government can't control. What would you surmise? Which state has the highest cost of kilowatt hour in the country?
California has the highest cost in everything.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. And also, thank you for being so accessible. You look at your predecessor, almost invisible. You go out and you're on TV, you're on the media to make certain that the American people and you're communicating with us on a regular basis. That's a refreshing change. I just have a question on your many TV appearances. I've noticed that you said that if the Democrats win, they'll do it again. Can you clarify what that means?
Yes, we saw a spending surge during the Biden administration, a blowout spending, and again, the deficit to GDP numbers blowing out, which according to MIT studies, the spending was responsible for the inflation surge. And at the same time, we saw mass unfettered immigration, 10, 15, 20 million illegal aliens coming into the country and depressing wages, taking low-end housing. And a study from Wharton showed that much of the low-end housing inflation, especially in rents, came from the 20 million new arrivals. The law of supply and demand that applies both for housing and for suppressing wages. So I would say, when I talk about that, there will be blowout spending, which will lead to inflation, and then the border will be reopened.
So clearly, this deportation effort, especially the self-deportations, is going to lead to lower housing prices, and we've already seen it, correct?
We have, and rental properties are ranked A through D, and D and C properties, we are seeing a substantial decrease. But what we're also seeing is because of the supply that is coming on, we're seeing a decrease in rents nationwide. As I said earlier, True Inflation, an agency that uses a basket of gathered real-time inflation measures, is now below 1%.
Yeah, and speaking of that, so let's talk about that real quick, because there's things that obviously federal policy impacts. And so an underlying cost to a lot of these key baskets of goods is the price of gasoline. What's happened in the last 12 months?
Price of gasoline is down substantially nationwide, and we expect it to continue going down. Also diesel, which is an input for farmers, for truckers. So energy feeds into everything, whether it is food cost, whether it is manufacturing, and again, more supply and being on the side of the energy industry has resulted in lower prices.
And the same thing can be said about the question you got at the beginning of this testimony about groceries. Eggs is an underlying ingredient in a lot of foods. What's happened to the price of eggs in the last 12 months?
Well, the price of eggs is down substantially. The president had to wear that for a few months, and then the price of eggs collapsed thanks to a lot of measures taken by ag under his direction. But of course, we don't hear about egg prices anymore. I will say, in my hometown, Senator Scott's hometown, I've noticed that the egg surcharge has gone off the menu in the diner we both like.
Right. But there's some things that the federal government can't control, and we had a conversation about electricity prices. What state would you surmise? I'm not trying to quiz you here, but what would you surmise? Which state has the highest cost of kilowatt hour in the country?
California has the highest cost in everything, the highest taxes, the highest homelessness, but
believe it or not, Massachusetts wins this one at 31 cents per kilowatt hour. Ohio's at 17.
Well,
and so a lot of that, wouldn't you agree, Mr. Secretary, that a lot of that is state policies, the policies initiated by those states?
A huge amount of state policy, and whether it's Kathy Hochul, governor of New York, blocking pipeline, whether the decision in New York, they are sitting next to the Marcellus Shale, will not allow gas in, and the pipelines to New England or down from Canada, New England has made the decision to deindustrialize. Even when I was a college student, Connecticut was a hotbed of small manufacturing.
Well, and again, let me just say from an Ohio perspective, we're happy to provide low-cost energy to New England. Would you be surprised to know that Massachusetts also has twice the core inflation as the national average?
I wouldn't, and seeing the statistics for how many people are leaving the state, I understand why.
So in conclusion, you'd like to see states do more of the things that states like Ohio do and less like the things that states like Massachusetts do. And the last thing we want to do is take those policies and make them national. Would you agree?
I agree, sir.
Senator Alsop-Brooks.
Well, first, I want to thank Chair Scott and Ranking Member Warren for holding today's hearing. I certainly want to say to you, Secretary Bessent, thank you for being here today to discuss our economy, which is very much on the minds of Marylanders. Before I get to my questions, I want to make a quick comment on market structure legislation. Mr. Secretary, I speak for many of my colleagues when I say that we really want to get to a good bipartisan bill. We want to get it done. And I've appreciated working with your team, both during the Genius Act and market structure process, and really appreciate their attention to the issue of stablecoin paying yield and interest. I am confident, feel really good that we are going to get a bipartisan compromise that protects innovation and our community banks. And I really encourage your continued work on that issue. Now, the 2025 FSOC report confirms that 60% of small business loans and 80% of agricultural loans come from community and regional banks. And I am very proud to be partnering with Senator Hagerty. He and I have a piece of legislation to increase stability for businesses and their customers by expanding the deposit insurance available for business checking accounts. And so I join many Maryland business owners, credit unions, and small banks who believe a targeted expansion of deposit insurance could strengthen confidence in our financial system. The first question everyone wants answered about changes to deposit insurance, and it's a valid one, is who pays for it? I'm committed to working across the aisle to make sure that we get this right. And I asked your colleagues, FDIC Chairman Travis Hill, about cost and benefits in October. And Chairman Hill testified that a targeted expansion of deposit insurance would likely not increase deposit insurance premiums on small banks, and that any increased premiums on large banks would be small or immaterial. Do you agree with Chairman Hill? And more broadly, will you explain to the committee why a targeted expansion of deposit insurance can strengthen our banking system and boost business and consumer confidence?
Senator, I want to thank you for your partnership on Genius, on Clarity. I am hopeful that we can get that across the line this spring. And I've been an outspoken advocate for small banks because they are Main Street. We've seen 50% of our small banks disappear since the great financial crisis, and I believe that is one reason Main Street has lagged, and a large part of that is overregulation. But another part of this is moral hazard, that during times of financial stress, like in March 2023, there's deposit volatility, deposits flee banks because they believe that whether it's the 3 largest, the 7 largest banks, that there is no risk of loss. But if they stay with the community banks, and I've met personally with more than 200 community bankers, spoken to 1,000, but the 200 I've met with tell me they could have clients for 50, their families had them for 100 years, and the money goes to Wells Fargo and doesn't come back because exactly what you said, because there wasn't one business checking account that normally a payroll account. They say, I just can't lose this money. So we want, and once Wells Fargo gets it, they don't want to give it back, they offer. So, and as you get a decrease in deposits through the fractional banking system, then there is a reverse multiplier for lending. So the banks lower deposits, less lending available for Main Street. So I think that you and Senator Hagerty and I co-authored a piece in the Wall Street Journal. I think this is an extremely important piece of legislation. I would encourage your colleagues to pass it, and anything I can do to advocate for it, please let me know.
Thank you. Now, one other question here. Mr. Secretary, I want to thank you for your public support for community development financial institutions. And that said, I also echo Senator Warner's concerns about the congressionally appropriated funds being released. Maryland CDFIs include banks and credit unions that provide crucial funding for businesses, housing, and access to capital in underserved communities. So I want to specifically mention two CDFIs serving in Maryland that regularly participate in the Banking Enterprise Award Program, which allows them to provide credit and financial services in some of the most distressed neighborhoods in Maryland. The White House Office of Management and Budget has withheld the notice of funding availability for the BEA program since March of 2025, and that's 11 months. And so if the notice is not published, CDFI banks cannot apply for funding. So in March, you said CDFIs are a key component in supporting Main Street America. Do you still stand by this statement?
I am eagerly awaiting to have it released from OMB so that we can move it forward. As soon as it is released, we will follow our statutory duty and release to CDFIs. I'm also very happy to see CDFIs getting back to a core mission of prosperity and resilience for their community.
Thank you so much, Mr. Secretary.